Hi and welcome to the Andy Gorman Golf One Putt podcast. I'm here with Gareth Shaw. We're here to talk about, well, tour talk. We've got all sorts of things. What's in the bag, what's going on in amongst our winners. We've got some terrific wins that have taken place with some controversy on the golf course as well. And of course, we're also looking forward to this week's golf in the desert, in a stadium that won't have as many people in it this year, but let's see what the atmosphere is going to be really like. It's going to be interesting to see. Looking forward to bringing that to you going forward. But yeah, we'll catch you on the other side. Looking forward to spending time with you. Hi Gareth, how are you?
Yeah, really good, Andy. You?
I'm very well, thanks. And it's kind of interesting. Your backdrop this week would suggest that we may be in Arizona.
Arizona, waste management. It's got to be such a cool tournament to go and view, but also imagine the players coming out of the tunnel into the amphitheatre or the Coliseum, they call it, and then trying to play that golf shot.
Well, won't be quite so intimidating this year, though.
No.
Crowds. Definitely won't be as full as what you've got there in the background. So it's going to be an interesting event. I mean, it's a great event. And yeah, it's golf a little bit different, but it'll be interesting to see just what kind of an atmosphere that they can create. I'm not even sure if that amphitheatre now is a permanent fixture on that golf course.
I think it is, I think that
it would make sense because it would take you 12 months to make that, I think. So, yeah, but it's I love that tournament, to be honest. I think it's a course that, it's a bit different. Of course, it's got the quirky bits. I'm not really suggesting that particular hole is anything, spectacular. I like the fact that the players are put under a different kind of pressure. And I think golf should do that every now and again, is have a little quirky event. We can get snow there as well this time of the year, which is kind of mad. Snow in the desert. It's just like, how's that work? But I think it just takes the player to a different place, and in terms of how they deal with it's a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more light-hearted, I think, and it's I think it's a good place to have a tournament. A good friend of mine was there last year, and he said it is mental. But a great experience, and it'll be interesting to see. I can't wait to see quite what it's like on there.
And Rory's playing it for the first time. Rory's never played it before. He's playing it for the first time.
Okay, yeah, right. That'd be good. That'd be good. I mean, maybe it's the type of place that there will be a few crowds there, from what I understand, but I don't know the full ins and outs. And playing with a few crowds around is going to help Rory. We know that. It's not all that far from where they are either at this moment in time, so it'd be good. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. Rory needs a win. He's got to get one over the line somehow. We know he likes Florida, but there'll be a Florida swing coming up shortly, of course. But it's going to be interesting to see what's happening, going forward with his career, because I think it's very much stalled. And that said, there's a lot of great players that have come back and, have had their wins going on, in time. Rory's obviously in his early 30s, but, you've got Paul Casey in his early 40s. Spectacular event, meant a huge amount to him. I did watch it yesterday. I watched it over the weekend, to be fair. And, I was particularly impressed with the way that he played. His scoring stats were exceptional, all week. He drives it so well. He hits it a good distance. So he's able to compete and play on a great golf course. And I just think that he is quite essentially an all-round professional. I can't think of any controversy that he may have courted in his career. I can, but that wasn't necessarily down to him. A Ryder Cup a few years back, but he's great, and he is a pick for the Ryder Cup, even if he doesn't qualify, which is kind of a bit alarming. I'm not so sure that you caught that one, but Pardraig said that he will be playing. because he can't not have him in the side. Which, I mean, it's great to get an endorsement, but to some degree could almost put a little bit of pressure on. You know,
it's a bit early, isn't it?
An expectation under that. But you know, he's found out on Monday that that's what Padre thinks of him, and you know, on Sunday he finishes the deal, and almost, I guess, to some degree, you know, has Sony's place up, which is great. You know, because I think he's going to, on merit, still be in a position going forward where he'll be in that top 5, I think, mix, top 4, top 5 mix for world rankings. So, you know, unless obviously others come through the ranks, but then you know that would suggest that also Tyrrell Hatton's going to be in there. But yeah, I mean that's phenomenal. I mean, you know, one, to get the captain's pick so early, kind of suggests that, you know, if there is a sort of a buoyancy, you know, towards the middle of September, that I mean, he can play wherever he wants. Ultimately, it gives him license to play his schedule, and you know, I just hope the Ryder Cup gets a chance to play. I mean, look, you know, it could be to a point where, you know, we can't take anything for granted. You know, and albeit it's 8 months away, you know, you get players over there and in a bubble, and all of a sudden, you know, a handful of players go down with, you know, a positive test. Then what happens? Doesn't bear thinking about, really, because it would just put a complete dampener on the event. You know, it's.
I know they're going to have a big pool of picks from this year. I think it's going to be really tough to whittle down the picks, and there's some big players going to miss out.
I agree. Yeah, I think there'll be names in there that ultimately, you know, will be excluded, and you know, you've got to play well. You just can't. And you know, I wouldn't want to be a captain. I wouldn't want to have to go through those picks. I think the challenge is your heart over your head. You know who you want in there. You know you want Poulter in there. You know you kind of want Westwood in there because they've delivered in the past. But are they good enough to deliver against the current crop of youngsters that you're going to be playing against? And, you know, are you going to pick somebody, you know, potentially who's really not going to play 5 matches? I mean, you know, we saw the last one, obviously, in France. We saw, Fleetwood 5 for 5. And, you know, it's never been done before by a European. And, you know, so you look at that and go like, well, are you picking your team that are, that you have to pick in your free picks? Are you picking the ones that are capable of playing 5 matches? Because in other words, you're going to play a youngster, you know, so, and they're all good enough. If you're looking at a player to play, you know, then they're all good enough. So, you know, and, you know, and I think fitness and stamina is one of the things that's going to bear out potentially the Ryder Cup picks. That said, I think Padre will mix it up with his heart as much as he will with his head. I think you may well see a stalwart, you know, Ryder Cupper end up in there, and you know, Poulter would be a pick of mine.
Will Stenson play? Will Willett play? Will Wallace play?
The two that I was going to stand out there and say I'm not so sure are good enough at this point in time is Westwood and Stenson. You know, you put Willett in there.
Will Rose play?
Rose. I mean, God, dear me, I couldn't pick Rose. I just couldn't do it.
Matt Wallace.
He needs. I think he needs to win to prove himself. I think this year, above anything else, you've got to be able to pick players that are capable of winning, you know, and have the mettle to win. I don't think, you know, Ryder Cup isn't changing anytime soon, and the demands upon the players are going to be significant going forward. So, my argument would be that you have to have winners on your team, you know, and I don't think that. I don't think you can carry. It'd be a tough one it's always going to be a tough one. That's why I wouldn't want the captaincy, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, do you pick somebody like Lee Westwood who you know is capable of doing what he does? You know, same thing for Poulter. You know, I think it was 14. Poulter wasn't playing great. he got a captain's pick. He
Was
made
that
the
Glen
ultimate.
Eagles?
It was Glen Eagles, and he pitched in, there to win, a point which, was getting away from the guys potentially. I mean, it was difficult for him to get up and down. It looked like it was going to go behind, and I think scrambled a half point or something along those lines. I don't think he scored many points that year, but did what he had to do, and of course was pivotal at the end. So it's very difficult because when you've got two-man teams, in the four balls and in the foursomes, then you've got that, you've got a player like Poulter who's going to pull a couple of birdies out when you just least expect it. And of course he's proven himself all the other times. So again, I'd love to think that he's more than capable of doing it and getting in, and but if Poltz and Westwood and Stenson and Willett are not there, you just look at it and go like, ooh, and there is going to be a changing of the guard. There's no question of that. Happened a few years ago with obviously Clark moving on and Monty, and now they're obviously doing extremely well on the Champions Tour again, and winning tournaments and the like. I just think it's
exciting, isn't it? Like you say, when you've got kids coming through now, your Victor Hovlands of this world, Lucas Biergaards and people like that on the European tour who can hit it a mile. They've got no fear. Would you take those kind of players with you?
I think so. And I think when you look in the past, and you've got the guys that have played, and just looking back at the guy, what's it, Victor Dubuisson, who played so incredibly well at the 14 Ryder Cup, and where's he gone now? Plays a handful of tournaments.
Same with Alex Norrin, I saw the first time. Again, another great golfer.
Yeah, he's based over in the States now. I think also we've got Molinari, who's based over there. So again, those guys are potentially, they've got to shake up a little bit. They've got to get the game in order. Again, do you not have Molinari on the team? So it's going to be, Nolan had a couple of great days to start the week off, didn't he? This week, just gone. So I've got. It's a great season to look forward to, isn't it? It feels like it's just starting to get some momentum. Of course, momentum also brings controversy.
How was your embedded lie, Andy? Did you get any embedded lies this morning?
I felt like an embedded lie-in was required. Oh, come on. I mean, flipping it. At what point do you stay away from the controversy of a rules violation?
Yeah.
And we've got three of them, all going through the same thing. Here's my big take on it. All right. Hit it in the rough and it's plugged. It's plugged. You play it as it lies. I don't care how wet it is. If there's water capable of coming out the ground, then it's casual water. It's not an embedded lie. But you don't pick the ball up before I go and look. I'm sorry, Patrick Reed, you're out of order. I don't care what what the PGA Tour is saying. Why are you protecting a player from a violation? You don't look. The player should not have the ball in his hand without another player at least being at his side. Why are you lifting it? I'm just going to check if it's embedded.
You don't need to move it, do you, to check it?
No, you don't. No, and it may be in the rough, and the challenge then, of course, may be that it's down in the rough, and you've got to have a look at it. But let the rules official determine, And there should be a couple of things that we can do. Number one, we've got cameras on our phones, and we've got cameras on TV, and you're playing in a tournament which is televised. You straight away, did that ball bounce? I didn't see it bounce was exactly the right thing for the volunteer to say. I didn't see it bounce. If she didn't see it or he didn't see it, they didn't see it bounce. But I can't rule out the fact that he did bounce. And if that's the case, then you go to TV, did the ball bounce? And we make it a rule, very simple. If the ball bounced, it can't be embedded, period. Because the second is not an embedding. I mean, and if it's embedding to the point where it's plugged in something, then it's going to be soaking wet, and the casual water rule comes into play. So, I think it's very self-explanatory. I think he knows how to court controversy.
Doesn't help himself, Andy, does he?
He's not helping himself at all. And, and to turn around and point the finger at Rory McIlroy and, Adam Scott for doing a similar violation, just says, and finish it, end of story. I mean, it's like, I know I've done wrong, but they've done it as well. And, it's out of order. It's completely out of order. The game of golf is full of integrity for the way that we self-govern ourselves. And you've got to cheat on the PGA Tour. And, it is nothing less. We've seen what he's done in a waste bunker before now, clearing sand out of the way. We know that he's, potentially, quite happy to just wave it away. And, like it doesn't matter, and allow him to win the tournament. I mean, violation should be he's had the ball in hand, and whatever the golf ball, whatever that rule is, and we could have checked the rule, I suppose, before we came on air. But, for me, you've picked a ball up that shouldn't be picked up. You put it back in exactly the same place. You put it, you don't drop it. You put it back in the same place under penalty. Whether it's 1 or 2 or, it's disqualification or whatever it is. I mean, if you made it a blanket disqualification, pick the ball up and it shouldn't have been, you're disqualified. Guy doesn't win the tournament, doesn't win a dime.
I love the rules official. Where's the ball?
It's over there. Yeah. Why is it over there? I mean, just, well, you can see, I mean, partly I'm incensed by it. I just can't comprehend it. I just can't understand what he's thinking. Apart from the fact that I'm going to cheat this as best I can. I'm sorry, it's blatant. You don't make it. You have to go out of your way to do something like that. Use the rules to the maximum advantage, because that's what they're there for. There's nothing cheating in maximizing a bad lie. All right. You maximize the potential of whatever it might be to play the shot. All right. And, I had one, we ended up on the phone. I was in Jamaica, don't mind admitting, and, you can say what you like about it at the end of the day, but we played it within the rules. So I've hit a ball under a bush up against the roots of a mango tree in Jamaica. So it's not your regular oak tree. It's a mango tree. And it's under a bush. And the only way that I can nudge it out, and the only way that I can nudge it out is to get down on my hands and knees. I don't have to build a stance to do this. I can get on my hands and knees, right? And I can play the shot, okay? Not quite hands and knees, of course. I've made my stance on my knees. When I do that, my feet are on the cart path, which entitles me to an immovable obstruction rule, which allows me to get a free drop. Now I can play the shot. In fact, we did 3 options on it. Okay, so we did under penalty, take a drop. Under no penalty, take a drop, because you're dropping in a different place because you're taking relief from the cart path, a completely different place. And then play it as it lies. So I hit 3 golf balls, got on the phone to the R&A, right? Fortunate, because of the way the time zone worked. We got we checked all the rules. We've got decisions books. We've got everything out, and, I know the rules. That's why I was able to make the call on the rules and the options itself. And the R&A adjudicated and said, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're entitled by, as long as you're not building a stance, because your feet were on the cart path, you're entitled to take relief from the cart path. Now, it played in my favour because I made a 5 and a 6 out of the other 2 balls, and I made a 4 from taking relief.
But that
and
again, Andy,
and I ended up winning the tournament.
That's playing within the rules. It's like our icon, Seve. He played within the rules. Yes, he might have tried to push the limit, but he always adhered to the rules.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he asked the question, and he'd ask questions only Seve could. And I think, obviously we see Bryson DeChambeau doing much the same thing. He's asking questions that only Seve could. you know, whether he thinks he's Seve or not is irrelevant, you know, and I admire him for being that, you know, sort of, I suppose cocksure is as good a term as any, you know, in terms of his, you know, where he feels his standing in the game is. He's a young man, he's got confidence, you know, bucketfuls of it, and he wants to play, and, you know, within the rules. That's why he asks the questions, and he caught controversy by asking the question. And he might be a little petulant with throwing the toys out of the pram when he doesn't get it his way, no less than Seve did, you know. And you've got to, you know, I don't think you admire, but you know, you have a little wry smile and go like, well, at least he's had a go. You know, he's tried. He thought he might be able to pull it off, get away with it, call it whatever you like. But ultimately, you know, when it comes down to it, picking a ball up. So I never saw Seve pick a ball up.
No.
Never saw him pick a ball up. Mark it, yeah, but he would wait for a rules official. And he'd wait for a rules official because he didn't want to be violating any rules. That was the integrity of the game that he played by. For you to get a ball in your hand at the very first moment of opportunity to do so suggests that you don't like what you've got.
I didn't even see a peg go in. Somebody said that he put a peg in, but I didn't see the peg. But he was very quick to put that ball to one side. Why did you put the ball to one side? Well,
you move it to one side, partly, and the main reason for that is if that ball is deemed to be not embedded, then it has to be returned with whatever mud on the ball would be. So you're not entitled to clean it. So ultimately, if you were I might be able to put my hand on the ball then, but if you would literally just hold the ball between your fingers as you've removed it out to the ground, and you would hold it there. So by resting it down on the ground, you're in effect trying to not violate that cleaning of the ball element, because if the ball is still in play, you have to return it in exactly the same manner that it was. And that's a crucial part of what he did there. But again, he should never have removed it until the rules official determined, yes, let's have a look at that first. I mean, that's ultimately, that's the principle. And, you know, and that ball didn't look dirty to me. So it didn't suggest that it had a adhering, you know, sort of dirt or substance or, you know, impediment on it. So, yeah. You know, can thrash this one out all day long.
Well, it frustrates me. Yeah, it frustrates me though, Andy, when he's actually played decent golf. We're talking about a rule. We're talking about rules of violation, and we should be talking about the golf, shouldn't we? But
we should, yeah, absolutely. I think he's a tremendous golfer, but it leaves a sour. It leaves something sour in your mouth. Apart from that, missing a 22-inch putt for 360 grand would leave a slightly more sour taste. Let's move on. Yeah. Victor Hovland, wow. What were you doing over your less than 2 foot putt?
I'll ask you, Andy, that. What's the short or the most money in terms of that? Have you missed a putt in that kind of relation for money or to win a match?
Oh, what have I missed? Oh my word. I think I mean, in terms of money, in terms of money, I've missed putts. I've missed, but I'd never say it was necessarily one particular putt. I've missed a shot which I know I should have made, and you just end up capitulating because you kick yourself, to the clubhouse from wherever you are, and there is a pivotal shot. We'll come to Paul Casey's round in a Mo where ultimately a pivotal shot kept his momentum going. We talk about pivotal shots and momentum, all the time. But I've missed. I remember driving a green. I may have mentioned this before, but I remember driving a green on a par 4, 18th hole. I was playing in Sleaford and Lincolnshire, and we were playing county sixes, which ultimately was a national event. And I only had to match the guy I'm playing with. He got no chance of hitting the green. I'm going to say it was a 310-yard par 4, but it was a bit bouncy. It was down breeze, and I could get one out there and got it out there. Old blocks of wood, Balata balls and all that. But I got the ball on the green. I got it above the hole. He had a look at the hole on the way on to the green. I mean, it was a really good drive. The guy I'm playing with, he's knocked his driver about 40 yards short of the green. He's pitched up to about 6 foot short. 2 putts, that's all I need to do. Left it 2.5 foot short from about 18, 20 feet. and I missed it. He holed it first, and I missed. I should never have left it 2.5 foot above the hole. I mean, that's the bottom line. But it costs the county the opportunity to represent England in the European Championships. So I remember the event itself. It's one of those. But I mean, I should never have left myself a 2.5 foot down the hill. I mean, I'd sort of been better off hitting it 4 foot past the hole. At least he had a chance to go in. But it was just one of those. So that one hurt me for a while, and I was 18, and I'm still recounting that. That didn't cause me to have a damaged putting reputation or putting game. But I mean, when it comes down to cash, ultimately, I can't say that I've lost a huge amount of cash, but I have lost golf tournaments by multiple 3 putts inside 10 feet, as we know on this show before. The alarming rate that I hold putts inside 10 feet today, I'd have won the tournament by 17 shots over 2 rounds. That's the bottom line. I mean, that's instead of finishing 1 over, I'd have finished 16 under. I mean, that's that because my conversion rate inside 10 feet now is that I miss a handful of putts all year inside 10 feet, and I had 10 3 putts inside 10 feet that day. So there's 20 putts more than I feel like I should have ordinarily. So so that's it's just a very realistic set of numbers based on what I'm capable of doing now and do for and have done for the last 5 or 6 years. So
what
so
are your thoughts on his stroke, Andy? What do you like about his stroke? What do you dislike about his stroke? He's one of those. He's almost there, but that's the trouble when a player is almost there. He stands reasonably tall to it, but not tall enough. And again, it's all about they're trying to get into a certain position which does not allow the body to move. He's hit that putt with his hands, and it never looked like going in. Plus the fact he hit it. I mean, look, I'm not saying that he hit it on the wrong line. He just hit it at the wrong line for the speed that he hit it at. He knocked it 4 foot past the hole almost. And I think it was closer to 3.5 feet than the 2 foot that he had to start with. So, I mean, did he overhit it because he was under pressure and, tried to hit it through the break and, just hit it through everything. But I mean, he's hit the putt 6 feet. He's got 2 foot to go. He's hit the ball nearly 6 feet. So, that's a major error in speed control. And no matter how much break you're taking out, and you never started outside the hole if you're going to hit it that firm. So, I'm all for taking a bit of break out, but, to hit it 4 foot past the hole, you make the hole 1 inch wide. Yeah.
It's simple. And then you've got to hope that it traps it and holds it. I mean, that's just, that's just crazy speeds, so, I like a lot of what he does. He's trying to get tall. He's trying to get good posture. He's a tall fella by the looks of things. And, it's almost there, but it just gets handsy. And when it gets handsy, you're prone to pulling that ball down. I mean, he's missed that putt by 3 degrees or he's hit it 6 feet instead of 4 feet.
Yeah.
So to miss the hole from that range, in fact, it's more than that, because at 3 feet, you've got 3 degrees of error. So he's missed that by about 4 degrees, 4.5 degrees, and that's a big miss. That pains me to see that. And it's ugly. There's no other way of putting it. It's ugly.
Talking of frustration, what do you think about Cap nearly snapping his driver across?
Oh my word! Yeah, I can talk about getting some flex in there. Has he got one of those auto flex shafts or something like that? I mean, how do you get that much flex and not snap it? I mean, God, dear me. I mean, that's just. I would want a stiffer shaft in my bag. I think that might be the problem why it's ending up in the rough. He needs a stiffer shaft. That's some. We'll put a post on here. You can put that image up, can't you? I mean, what a ridiculous amount of flex around his back. I mean, one shows you how strong these shafts are these days. It takes an awful lot to snap one, but and the weakest spot is down by where he's holding it, which of course is, and there's another danger. If that had snapped in his hand, he's got his hand around the grip on the one side, but if he snapped it anywhere near here, that the splinter fiber damage on a graphite shaft on a hand could be literally career ending. So no matter how frustrating you are, I mean, if folk want to know, what that really seriously can do, and you snap a steel shaft, you get a cut. You snap a fiber shaft and you get splinters and you get shrapnel, and it's literally, I don't want to sort of liken it to being shot, but you're shooting yourself with loads of fibers of graphite, and you will never get them all out. So in which case there'll be a healing process with graphite in there, and it'll make its way out, and it will constantly trauma the hand. So it will be a career ending, somebody at that level, it will be career ending. So, it's just ridiculous. I also know that he's finished with his coach as well, hasn't he? So
yeah.
So it suggests that he's in a frustrating place in his head.
It seemed as well that the course this week kind of threw up a lot of frustrations and a lot of kind of controversy. Do you think it'll be the same when we come to US Open at Torrey this year?
Yeah, it'll be more difficult. I think I was looking at some of the aerial views of it, and it's close to the edge, isn't it? I mean, it's I was a little bit surprised that maybe Bryson wasn't there, just getting around it, having a look at it, because you've got to figure out where you can't hit it. Because there are a lot of places there you can't hit it. You're not all that far offline. If you look at some of the errors that he made in the US Open last year, then ultimately, he's not going to get a chance to do that kind of error. Now, he doesn't hit it that far offline, to be fair. But when you're hitting that far and you get it, going riding on the wind a little bit, you can get it offline very quickly. So, you've got to figure out where you're going to hit it. And of course, the rough is going to be US Open rough. I mean, I just don't see them, keeping it at 4 inches. I mean, that's just, they're just not going to do it. I caught somebody on the telecast talking about it the other day. It may not rain between now and then, and now and the US Open. I mean, it's just going to show you how hard and bouncy that golf course is likely to be. So yeah, I think because I mean, was it the last time it was there? It was 2008.
Was it Tiger? The Tiger went there.
It was Tiger. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if it's been there since, but certainly it was there in 2008, and we all know what happened then. So yeah, it's going to be, it'll be a different golf course. It's a little bit like Pebble, you Pebble in March, or sort of end of February, March, whenever they have the Pro-Am. It's a completely different golf course to when you go there in June. Different grasses, pulling through and the like. And yeah, it's they're different tests of golf. And the different grasses are just purely because they're coming out of winter. Or coming out of the damp and going into the dry, and of course you get the drier strains and the longer stalky grasses in the rough, and you miss it and you miss it. You are going to be punished for it. So I think Tiger had a few sixes on his card, or his cards, should I say, in 2000, when of course he won by 15 shots that year. So it's always just going to be brutal, I would expect. And it'll be interesting to see how the USGA feel like they need to defend that course. Do they defend it from 300 yards out from the tee? Do they really thicken the rough up and really grow it at 300 yards? That's what I would like to see. If they want to make the golf course difficult, or US Open difficult, then thicken it all up from 300 yards. Give the guy the opportunity to lay up. I mean, 300 yards is a 3-wood for some of these guys these days. So, but let them hit it 300 yards. You want to hit it 320. You want to hit 360. You want to hit it nearly 400. And you don't hit it straight, then, you're not even chipping it out sideways. I mean, make it 4 foot deep if you want. And that's, Chambers Bay. Or not Chambers Bay, what was it, Mission Hills, or what was it?
There was Erin Hills, and there was
Erin Hills, that's the one, do it and do that, and I think that's where you'd force the players to back off. I mean, that would be a hybrid upwards off the tee for DeChambeau, or, you know, 3-iron or something. It's, and I think that would make a, you know, potentially, you know, challenging. I mean, don't necessarily bottleneck it, you know, just make it deep, you know, let it be 4 to 6 inches deep, you know, up to 300 yards, and then just let it grow. Just, you know, because I wouldn't want to be hitting in there,
No.
even at 260, you know. You know, you wouldn't, you know. So if you get an area where you can play it up to, and you're going in with a 4-iron into a green that's baked like a concrete, you know, upturned saucer, you know, to a, you know, pin location that's got a 25-foot drop off the back of the green, 5 foot past the flag. I mean, who's going to do that? You know, so, you know, it's going to, that's the way potentially. And look, I know nothing about setting up major championship courses, but be my obvious choice. I think that'd be a really cool way to go. So
I'm with you.
At European Tour, Paul Casey. Wow, what a, you know, we touched it earlier, but what an exceptional week's golf. You know, Padraig obviously giving him the nod, you know, and then he goes out and produces the goods. I mean, an illustrious name drop session, if you were to go back through the winners. You know, pretty much the biggest names in golf in the last 30 years have found their names on the trophy there. And, you know, Paul Casey, I think no less deserving of the names that, you know, sit at the top of that. Exceptional golf, terrific golfer. He hits the golf ball a good distance. He found, you know, the fairways so often. His approach play was incredible, impeccable. Didn't have to be overly hot with the putter, but boy, did he hole some putts that he had to hole coming down the stretch. One particular, I mean, 13, he's got a putt for a bogey from 13 and a half feet, and he boxed it in. And I tell you what, talk about Victor Hovland's return putt. He would have had 3 to 4 feet coming back had that ball not gone in. You know, he just took the line out of it and just bashing straight into the back of the hole. And he'd missed the putt shorter than that on 12 for birdie. It was just, you know, which would have given him about a 6-shot lead. But he struggled on the 13th hole. He said it's just a hole he couldn't see it all week. Struggled on it. I think he bogeyed it every day. And it just, you know, it's just, some players are like that, you know, or, well, every player's like that, but some holes are just like that. You just got to see your way through it. The beauty about it with a par 3 is that, you know, a bogey's only a 4 on the card. So, you know, whereas if it's a par 5, and obviously it's a bogey's a 6. So, you know, 6s and 7s never look good on a scorecard, and 4s, you know, aren't really that bad if you've got that happening on a couple of par 3s. So, you know, he's obviously able to get his way through there, but just, you know, clinical all through the whole week. He just looked very, very solid. Very impressive performance, and like I say, on the greens, just super solid. Yeah, it's not an awful lot more to say other than he's given the captain an awful lot of confidence in the things that he said. So, you know, so dot the cap, but I think it could be a really pivotal year for Paul Casey. Yeah. Really pivotal. He drives it well. It is, I think, Torrey Pines could well be an opportunity for him. Likewise, you know, I don't really see Paul Casey as a great links player, but, you know, he does flight the golf ball very high. He's perfectly suited for a US Open, a little bit like Justin Rose, you know, with the way they flight the golf ball. And maybe, you know, Torrey Pines is the place that he can get his maiden victory, but, you know, in a major. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see as this one pans out. Of course, you know, Augusta, he's played so well at Augusta. But I think it's great that he's got, you know, he's going to gain some confidence at the start of the season. And sometimes that's all it takes, you know, for a player to start to believe themselves early, you know. And of course, there's only 4 weeks during the year, you know, where you're going to make it happen. So, you know, he'll be back over to the States fairly shortly. I think he's going over to Saudi, where they're going to be this week as well. And, you know, he gets himself into form again, you know. There's just no reason why he can't go back-to-back wins, you know, anyway. I think he's just such a great player. 15 wins on the European Tour, which is, there's only a handful of golfers that have done more than that. Literally, I think he's about 5th ranked on the wins on tour, with, of course, Seve, Monty. I think the current crop of players is fifth ranked. Yeah, so he's had a great career, and of course, and most of that time has been spent in the US. That's the other thing. So, what's that tell you about his potential to have won? Would he have gone head to head with Lee Westwood more significantly? Had he stayed over here? And I'd said, yeah, absolutely. So he could have easily, got into the 20s and may still get into the 20s. Of course, he's not mid 40s yet. He's close, but not quite. But and as I said, inspired by Lee Westwood going forward. So it's good.
Another busy week coming up as well. Great golf. The good golf keeps coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what was really interesting is you keep looking at Paul Casey and you keep looking at his bag, and actually 2 winners this week. Let's put a positive spin on Patrick Reed's golf. In terms of he's played great. He's outplayed everybody this week. But when you look at the bag of Paul Casey and Patrick Reed, for whatever reasons they've decided to go the way that they have, and again, there's controversy around Patrick Reed's bag, but as to where he gets his equipment from and why he gets his equipment the way that he does. Buying your own equipment isn't a bad thing. We've all had to do that as PGA pros. We're quite used to it. We don't always get given it for free.
Remember last year, Tommy Fleetwood's caddy brought him a putt off eBay?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So I use this because it can't be any worse than the one you got. Yeah. I think in fact, actually, I think he bought it on his behalf, didn't he? And he still didn't give him any money back. But he's probably
I think he made it, built it for him. It was a design he liked from Odyssey, and he just went and got him one.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the thing. And I think there's, and that's happened for years. That's happened forever. Yes, the manufacturers may well have new product coming out all the time, but it's not a great place to be, changing your clubs out, and just because there's a new one come out. Sometimes the original designs were better. They fit the eye better. I mean, Pinganza for me, original Pinganza are very pleasing to the eye. Light, but you soon bulk the weight up. There's lots of ways to weight up a putter, but for me, I think the biggie, is if you like the look of something, you can make it work. And many a golfer has gone back to things that have worked in the past. And obviously, Casey's got a set of clubs, complete mismatch of clubs in there. Between the Mizunos and the Titleist and sort of TaylorMade and the like in there, and but he's got a set of golf clubs that work for him, and that's the key to this. I mean, he's clearly in a position financially he doesn't need to take on an endorsement. I think that's very honourable. I think when you get to a certain stage of your career, you're not as bothered about taking the equipment endorsement fees as you are the options for putting the right set of gloves in the bag. We saw that with Koepka for a number of years, but I think he's not earning the money on the golf course, so he's decided to earn it off the golf course. Take the big bucks that are on offer. And again, to some degree, I say, well, why not? And when you get that opportunity, and you can find the equipment that works for you, then by all means do it. But it's what's interesting. Sergio Garcia back to his clubs that he won the Masters with, and he had a win with the Ping Blueprints last year, but still missing short putts. Did notice that, missed what seemed like a plethora of putts, but almost unfathomable, really. I mean, I can see why he's missing them, but ultimately, missing putts, short putts, makeable putts that you should be knocking in for fun, really. At that level of the game. Justin Rose is back to his 2013 set of clubs. What's interesting is they've gone back to the clubs that they were paid to use, and now they're not being paid to use them. So
They've all
I can
done
see
it
the
over the
confidence.
years, haven't they? All done it over the years. I know Fleetwood brought up a load of sets of the Nike irons when they finished. I know Daniel Berger's done the same with his TaylorMade MBs, I think they were. So these guys get very, is it superstitious? Is it sentimental? I don't know what it is really.
Well, I think when a club wears out and you know that you know what it's capable of doing, you know, when the club wears out, it wears out. So you're going to want to stay ahead of that, you know, and I'm much the same with my wedges, as you know, and I've got a spare putter also. So, you know, there's lots of reasons why players do that. And, you know, but, you know, the other thing as well is, you know, we used to keep clubs in our bag for 3-4 years anyway. So you never really worried about them being wearing out. You know, grooves, you never thought about grooves wearing out. In fact, the badge of honor was the little rusty spot that you had that you used to spend hours and hours trying to hit, and then you'd realize you'd worn the clubs out. You can, you know, get yourself a new set. And then every 20 handicap golfer in the club wanted to buy those clubs off you because it made them look good. So, but yeah, you know, it's a crazy, you know, it's a crazy thing when players are expected to change all the time. And I think this is really that's indicative of where we are with the, you know, I want it now mentality. That's the first thing. I want the very latest technology. Well, you know, to some degree, a blade's a blade. I know, you know, manufacturers will want to kick me for that, but they are, you know, it's as long as it visibly looks good and you know, and it plays and creates the ball flight that suits the player characteristics, then yeah, ultimately, you know, a blade is a blade. You know, we can do a little bit more with the drivers and, you know, fairways, hybrids, a little bit more of what's going on inside the club is doing its thing. But, you know, pretty much with an iron, you know, yes, you can bolt on a, you know, to a degree, a different weight, but, you know, if the weight's in that area, the weight's in that area. It doesn't matter whether it's 5 grams or, you know, 6 grams of weight to balance the club out. You know, if that's where the weight is, and it could be 13 as against 14 grams or whatever, you know, the number's irrelevant. What, you know, we're only changing them out to balance the club, you know, a nominal amount. The mass weight is in that area when it's been done. So, you know, there isn't really that much happening difference from one set to the next, you know. So if you get a set of golf clubs lasting 2 years, there's no reason why it can't last you 4, because I don't think most recreational golfers are going to benefit from changing the clubs out, but apart from the fact that they've just spent another £1,500, £2,000, you know, on doing so now. And that's, you know, we talked about it last time, the price of equipment is just getting ridiculous. So, you know, yeah, by all means, go and dig an old set of gloves out. And, you know, as I was in the garage earlier and, you know, found a set of clubs that were made for a player on the European tour, and he ultimately, you know, didn't use them for very long and brought them back, and, you know, they ended up in my bag. And I used those for a couple of years as well. You know, so I had good value out of them, and I put them down, look at them and think, you know, they are really easy to hit. You know, as the clubs are that I use, they're slightly more chunky, slightly faster off the club face. I probably would hit them a little bit further than the ones I've got right now, but, you know, you just look at them and go like, yeah, they could end up back in the bag. So I've never really sort of caught up in equipment, you know, apart from the driver and the putter, as you know. And, you know, yeah, when the wedges wear out, the wedges wear out. It's, you know, there's no recovery of those, but, you know, and so that's the only thing really for me. But yeah, players mixing the bags up, I think it's here to stay. Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. Another great show, Andy. Really good part.
Yeah, you know, it's always interesting to be able to pick out what's taken place at the week, and, you know, we need the Patrick Reeds of this world to keep our show full of information and thoughts, and yeah, we'll say it as it is and continue to do so. So yeah, and of course, Patrick, if you'd like to come on the show, we'd be more than happy to have you. But, a little shout out. But yeah, so yeah, looking forward to what this week's got to offer. Again, European tours in the Middle East with Saudi, and right behind you there at the waste management in the desert. So yeah, it's going to be a good bit of golf to talk about this time next week. So we'll catch up with you then.